Hello, good morning, fellow Ghanaians. Yesterday, something disgraceful happened. Joy News reporter Carlos Kaloni, his cameraman, and their eyewitness interviewee were manhandled, detained, and assaulted by national security operatives in military camouflage while covering the demolition of a warehouse owned by businessman Daniel Macaulay, popularly known as McDan. Carlos gave a chilling account of being roughly handled just for doing his job. This is not just an attack on a journalist. It is an attack on journalism, an attack on the public's right to know, and an attack on truth. And in a democracy, that is not acceptable. This is shameful, and it must not be buried in silence. Journalists must not be brutalized for bearing witness. If you touch the press, you touch the people. There must be justice, and those of us here at the Multimedia Group are demanding that there be justice. Now let's get into the matter of this morning. The Attorney General's baffling decision to discontinue criminal charges against Dr. Kwamina Dufour and 7 others in the UniBank collapse case in exchange for a partial recovery of assets. The AG's justification is that 60% of the assets have been recovered and that the charges have dragged for 6 years, that the legal terrain was complex and conviction was not guaranteed, that the state might walk away with nothing, and that therefore this deal is in quote, the interest of the Republic. But really, is this justice? This appears to be surrender. It is one of the clearest signals yet that in Ghana, the powerful do not get punished. They negotiate their way out. The collapse of UniBank was not just a clerical error. It was not an honest mistake. It was a coordinated, systematic, and damaging abuse of Ghana's banking system. The entire banking system collapsed. That is what it was. The court document shows that the shareholders, Dr. Dufour and co decision to pay back 60% of what was lost simply confirms this. And at the height of the rot, UniBank had received over 3 billion cedis in liquidity support. Support meant to stabilize the bank and protect depositors. But that money vanished, channeled through unapproved loans and dubious advances to shareholders and related parties. Essentially, 75% of the bank's assets were gone. This wasn't a mere financial crisis. It was a national trauma. The banking sector cleanup in a whole cost the taxpayer, you and I, over 20 billion cedis. Ordinary people lost life savings. Pensioners were ruined. Businesses collapsed. And staff were laid off. Families were broken. And some even died while waiting to get their money back. And now the state says what? Because 60% of the assets have been recovered, it's okay. Let's close the case and move on. No, absolutely not. Accountability is not about recovering a portion of the loot. It's about justice. It's about drawing a line in the sand and saying to everyone, no matter how rich, no matter how connected you are, no matter how powerful, you do not steal from the Republic and walk away. These decisions undermines every principle of deterrence. It tells would-be looters, steal big enough, delay long enough, and settle cheap enough. And then you are safe, free to walk away. Fellow Ghanaians, we've seen this play out so many times. In countries like the United States, the United Kingdom, banks and executives implicated in financial scandals have often walked away with fines, but they did face the full scrutiny of the law. In Malaysia, the 1MDB scandal saw some recoveries, but left powerful perpetrators untouched. In the end, money was partially returned, but justice remained incomplete. Ghana is now walking the same crooked path, and we must all resist it. We must say to the power bearers, to the AG, clearly, restitution alone in cases like this is not justice. Settlements are not accountability. We do not just want our money back. We want our dignity back. We want fairness. We want the law to mean something. We want to believe that this country still protects the honest and punishes the corrupt. So this decision cannot stand. I join those who say the prosecution must be reinstated. Let the courts decide this matter, not just the Attorney General. Let the evidence speak for itself in court. If the case is weak, let it collapse in court, not in press releases and press conferences. We must draw a red line across this country. If you steal public funds, no matter how smart your lawyers are, no matter how long you delay, you will face justice. Fellow Ghanaians, we are not talking about goats or cassava here. We are talking about billions of cedis, enough to build hundreds of schools, supply thousands of hospitals with beds, fund road construction, expand the NHIS, and boost agriculture. But instead, they were diverted, disguised in loans, hidden in shell companies, some would even allege, protected by power. And now we are told to be content with 60% and move on? No. The average Ghanaian is drowning in taxes, inflation, fuel hikes. Public workers are underpaid. Nurses and teachers are owed arrears. And yet the state finds the moral confidence to forgive the architect of a financial disaster because they return part of the spoils. This is not just bad governance. It is betrayal in daylight. And to the victims of the banking collapse, this decision spits in your face. To every young Ghanaian working hard to follow the rules, this tells you that you can commit crime and you can do it boldly enough and it will pay off. But beyond the legal gymnastics and selective logic, there is a bigger betrayal, a political one. This NDC government, this very government, under whose watch the Attorney General operates, promised Ghanaians something bold and righteous during the last campaign. Operation Recover All Loot, oral. Not some, not a percentage, all. It was to be a sacred crusade to retrieve every stolen cedi from those who stole from the state and its people, and to restore public faith in these institutions. What began as a national mission to retrieve every stolen coin and cedi has now morphed into Operation Recover Some Loot and let the looters keep the rest. Where is the resolve? Where is the fire? Where is the Ghana we were promised? This one decision cast a long shadow over the very moral architecture of the government's anti-corruption stance. It tells us that recovery is now negotiable, that restitution is no longer necessary, that accountability is a bargaining chip, that the fight against financial crime is no longer anchored in justice, but in expediency. What message that this sent to other looters waiting in the shadows, that if they just wait long enough, lawyer up well enough, and politic long enough, they too can walk away with their loot and a handshake from the state? Is this what Operation Recover All Loot was supposed to become? Well, still, this decision exposes a double standard. Dr. Dufour is no ordinary Ghanaian, you know. He's a towering figure in the NDC, a party financier even. He's a former governor of the Bank of Ghana, a former finance minister, and a recent presidential aspirant in that party. The decision to let him off the hook while other less connected Ghanaians rot in jail for stealing cassava and goods rips through the credibility of the administration's commitment to equal justice. Since assuming office, the current Attorney General has filed noli prosequi in a number of high-profile criminal cases involving other notable NDC figures. In some of those cases, I would argue that the reasons were legally sound and defensible, but not for this one. Is this the message that this government is only interested in prosecuting financial crimes or other crimes when accused is an opposition figure, but when it's someone from within their own political party, they will not? But if it's from the other political party, they drag them through the courts. But when the accused is a big man from within their own tent, then the rules change. And so we must ask, what moral standing does this government now have to go after others? If Operation Recover All Loot becomes Operation Recover Some of the Loot, then the whole fight against corruption has been reduced to partisan theater. And so we demand that the Attorney General looks at the decision again and reinstitute the charges against Kwabena Dufo and others. Let the court play out and let them decide whether they are guilty or not. I'll see you again tomorrow. Have a great morning.